So approximately how many participants are there, Amrita?
Sir, we have near about 75 registrations.
Mhm. Mendiratta ji, last conference was last for the Petroleum Secretary. You know that he got changed.
Yeah, that was last one. Yes, yes, yes. But sir, immediately he's joining or what?
I think they have to join immediately.
Immediately.
So
Okay.
it was just
I think
maybe-
after the President Secretary takes over the new assignment.
Hmm.
Okay, okay, okay. So till that time he will be here. Maybe there can be some overlap also.
No, I don't think they just change. The order comes within a day, 24 hours or so, they change it.
Hmm.
Okay, so with all your permissions, may I begin, sir?
Yeah, sure. I'm not good to go.
Yeah, please start.
So, good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's online discussion on gas market reforms, need, and interventions, organized by the Indian Association for Energy Economics. India's natural gas sector is at an important crossroads with the national ambition of increasing the share of natural gas to 15% by 2030. Today's session brings together distinguished leaders and experts to reflect on progress, challenges, and the reforms that can truly shape India into a competitive and transparent gas based economy. To set the context for today's dialogue, I would like to invite Mr. S.R. Narasimhan sir, Vice President of IAE and former CMD from Grid India, to deliver the opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Amrita. Good afternoon, distinguished panelists and esteemed participants. It's a pleasure and honor for me to welcome you all to this Indian Association for Energy Economics debate on gas market reforms, need and interventions. First of all, a disclaimer. I am no expert in this area of natural gas, but I vividly recall my first tryst with this sector when I started my career in electricity grid operations in the year 1988. Delhi, they had 6 units of 30 megawatt gas turbines, which used to be operated in open cycle. So initially they used naphtha, but then we had the HBJ pipeline commissioned around that time, 87, 88. And that's when gas firing also started. And, that was a time when I used to hear the term associated gas, and then came to know that it's basically when oil is being extracted, gas also comes out of it, and utilizing that gas, that used to be a big issue. We used to have a lot of flaring at Bombay High and the South Basin oil fields. And almost 12 million cubic meters of gas used to be flared daily, and then we had this HBJ pipeline, the South Basin to Hazira pipeline, and then the NPC gas projects at Anta, Aureia, and Kavas. They came up in 1988 to 1993. And when I joined, the gas capacity in the country was just about zero point 0.5 gigawatt. That was all. And from there to 1997, we had about 6 gigawatt, and all these plants along the HB pipeline, they played a key role. So I've seen the importance of the natural gas infrastructure and how it contributes to a resilient electricity supply infrastructure, as well as a flexible resource to handle the increasing wind and solar penetration into the Indian electricity grid. Gas power plants in the recent past also, when we had the intense heat wave in May 2024, and then earlier the failure of monsoon in 2023. During that time, the gas power plants, they played a very crucial role. and these plants are also used as a black start resource. So on many occasions in the past, when we had transmission congestion in northern region, then we used to utilize the gas infrastructure, and divert gas from western region plants to northern region plants so that you could mitigate the transmission congestion. So that was all a command and control kind of thing. Ideally, the markets should have taken care of all this, and led to efficient utilization of gas. But we had a command and control structure at that point of time. And the gas electric coordination is also very important, as underscored during the February 2021 storm Uri in Texas. So worldwide, it's seen that natural gas contributes close to 23% of the total primary energy supply. However, in India, its contribution is only of the order of 5 to 6%, as more than nearly 50% of the gas consumed is imported, and the demand is highly price sensitive. Even in the early 90s, when we had the administered pricing mechanism, the gas power plants had to compete with the pithead power plants, NTPC, all the pithead plants at Singrauli, Vindhyachal, Ramagundam, they were coming in 80s and 90s. So gas power plants had to compete with that, and that was also the time when I got my first exposure to the term MGO, and it's the minimum guaranteed offtake. So during the month end, we used to get frantic requests from NTPC to schedule the gas power plants. Otherwise, all the money that they had to pay for the gas, that would have gone waste. So that was the first time we got exposed to this term. And but then over the years, a lot of gas and coal, a sort of coal and other capacity in wind and solar has got added. And so in the last 10 years, a number of gas projects, power projects, they had to be mothballed. And very recently in 2025, the CEA has delisted nearly 5 gigawatt of gas capacity. And so power generation, it contributes only about 13% of the gas consumption in India, with other sectors like fertilizers, city gas distribution, refineries and petrochemicals being the major set of consumers. Against this backdrop, and considering the role of gas as a transition fuel, there is a government ambition to increase natural gas contribution from 6 to 15% by the year 2030. This aspiration would call for substantial investments in LNG infrastructure, gas pipelines, storage facility, as well as fostering competitive gas markets. Earlier in Feb 2025, the IEA had come out with its India Gas Market Report, Outlook to 2030. Very recently, the Vision 2040 Natural Gas Infrastructure in India report by a high-level expert committee constituted by PNGRB was released. We are fortunate to have this panel, experts who have contributed to these reports. I look forward to insightful discussions on this subject. I welcome you all once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for setting the context. Now we move to the main discussion, moderated by Mr. Nikhil Moge, partner at KPMG. So I would like to hand over the panel to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Narasimhan, for setting the context. It was quite useful. A very good evening to everyone and my esteemed panelist. Thank you for joining in. What we'll do today is, like Mr. Narasimhan mentioned, that we would actually delve deeper into some of the aspects of gas reforms, and we would structure these gas reforms under 3 or 4 broad heads. The first one is essentially a macro level view of where we are looking at taking the gas share in the energy basket, whether it's 6 to 15, 6 to 13, and what are those things that needs to be done to to do so, and that's where the reform and policy element would come in. The second one is more specifically getting into some of the specific areas where we can see those interventions coming in. So the first dialogue is around a macro level view, and the second dialogue is, getting into those micro level aspects of how we can structure these, reforms, and how we can structure some of the elements that will actually take this, our country's gas share from 16 to 15%. So with that, what I will do is I will, request the panelists, and I'll call out one by one. And if the panelists can maybe give a 2 minutes opening remarks on, aspects related to what their thought process is with respect to, the increasing gas share, or with respect to specific reforms, and so on and so forth. Energy transition is something that can be touched, and that's where, maybe I would request few of the panelists to talk about it. And I see Mr. Subhash Kumar smiling. So, I'll start with Mr. Saraf. Mr. Saraf, see, you have been, one of the key, experts or stalwarts of this report that has come today. May I request you, if you could just talk about on a very broad macro level, what's your view in terms of when it comes to gas and increasing gas share and so on and so forth. So please, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon and namaskar to all. Let me first thank IAEE to have me here on this online event. I would begin by saying that we have reasonable amount of natural gas infrastructure in India. We have several LNG terminals. We started with one with the Dahej terminal of Petronet LNG. Dr. Balian is here. He stalwart in that. And with that, now we have close to 1 dozen LNG terminals, and more are coming. On natural gas pipelines, several new pipelines are there which have been completed during last couple of years. The Northeast, one new pipeline has come, very recently reported, supplied natural gas to Nuwaligarh refinery. So all these things are coming. CGD infrastructure, it is coming. PNGRB has been able to award CGD areas to the entire country almost, and more and more PNG connections, CNG stations are coming, smaller pipelines are coming in the CGD areas. So all this infrastructure, I call it hardware. And there is when there is a hardware, there would be some software attached to it. And what I call software is an ecosystem, market ecosystem. Regulations, these are the software, and without the software, the hardware, which is infrastructure, cannot work. What we while we have enough of infrastructure and new is coming, but we lack certainly the ecosystem, the regulations. Now we need to concentrate on regulations, natural gas market, so that the markets become more competitive, more open, responsive, and transparent. So this is the first thing which we have to approach, and I think the theme of this event also revolves around what sort of reforms are required in the natural gas sector. So we would talk more on this, but to begin with, I would say that we require more and more software, which is the regulations. So whereas the potential is concerned, the natural gas sector has huge potential, untapped potential. Globally, the share is 24%, as just told by Mr. Narasimhan. Also in India, we have 6%. In India itself, in Gujarat, we have more than 24%. When Gujarat can do it within India, within the same ecosystem, I think the other states can also do it, the country can do it. I would stop here.
Thank you, Mr. Saraf. I think this is, quite important, and you rightly said the context in terms of looking at expanding the you would say hardware and software in that sense. It's quite relevant analogy. I would then move to Mr. Mehdi. So in terms of the markets, and when we talk of markets, we are talking of the gas markets and even hubs to that at the extent. may I call upon you to just talk about, in your opening remarks, what's your macro level view on how we are doing and what needs to be done? Maybe we'll get into the specifics later, but a broad level context. So please.
Thanks, Nikhil, and thanks, IEEE, for this opportunity. And very good evening to all panelists. See, Nikhil, I also would take discussion forward from where Mr. Saraf left, that hardware and software. And I will say that this market infrastructure is something which actually takes care of most optimal use of infrastructure. So basically, you have a commodity which has to use infrastructure to move from one place to another. Now, in most optimal manner, it can move when there are right kind of market structure is there. So with that in mind only, we started the exchange in 2020, and we are now getting 5-year-old. And the attempt is the market should provide a price signal for the whole system, that where the demand supply gaps are there, where the demand is more, supply is more, and it should gas should flow to the best for the best use of for the customer. And then so basically with that in mind, we started this exchange. And now, since we have some experience, I can tell you that we really would like to create a good hub in the market in India, and we see the right ingredients are there in India. Like normally people believe that no, India is not ready for the getting a real regional hub, but I believe that. Since we have a good amount of total market size, we are not very small. If you compare with the Indian consumption of 68 BCM, we are more than most of European countries. And if you see in terms of infrastructure, we have, as Saraf sir said, now more than 10 LNG terminals, all import capacity. We have right mix of domestic plus import, 50% domestic, 50% import. And we are getting 25,000 kilometer network is anyway there, and we will add. And then CGDs have been established. Of course, we should have done it much before, but recently, since all CGDs have been given licenses in 100% of the country, so basically all raw material has been put in place, and markets are expected to grow. And only the issue which we are seeing today is the price, because if you have gas at the right price, probably you will flourish better. But since it has not been at the right price suitable to Indian customers, so we have not seen the accelerated growth of gas sector. But that will also happen, as we are all expecting that there will be glut in the market in 26, 27. And then when prices will start sliding down, probably we will definitely be ready to take all of that gas, and our consumption should grow, market size should grow. So with that in mind, we believe that we can do this, create a regional hub, and I'll talk more maybe later in the session. But here I stop. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Mediratta. I'll move on to Mr. Balyan. Mediratta ji talked about gas price. Will you want to touch base on what's your macro level view on the gas price, and what's your first reaction there?
So thank you very much, Indian Association for Energy Economics, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful discussion there. Thank you, and welcome all the panelists as also the participants here. I'll go back to first what Mr. Narasimhan said on that. This kind of scenario only points out that the policy framework, the gas market has only been reactive to its use in different applications. Whenever there was a crisis, we ran to gas. Oh, gas, let's put it more use on that. So I think what is required is more proactive kind of a policy framework, and which can be put in use right now, and not really waiting for crisis to come and then we rush to gas and use it. I see that we as a country cannot be separate or different. We have to integrate with the international market. So whatever prices internationally are there, we have to respect that. We have to use our skills and all to really negotiate hard and get the best price. So that is there. But one thing is there that we can't really change that. But as a major consumer, I think we have that kind of a skill and demand that we can influence some pricing mechanism worldwide. So that is one thing that I feel can be done. Over a period of time, we have seen that gas usage has increased. We have growing infrastructure right now. The problem of using gas and how do you develop gas is being different than oil. You have to take the gas to the customer. And bringing it to the customer, the last mile connectivity has always been a problem here. Besides, of course, the pricing and all. But I'll make only one point, and then we go into more discussion, is that when the first cargo came in India, somewhere around 2004, it was priced about $2.50, 2.5 to be precise on that. People had apprehensions that, oh, this is a high price compared to the domestic gas. How will we use it? Whether it will be consumed or not. The industry has been able to not only consume, but grow. Today, we have moved ahead quite a lot, actually. And we are I think we are going to maybe third position, but fourth certainly as a LNG buyer and major consumer on that. So I think we need to really see and develop those policy framework, what Mr. Saraf called it as a software part of that, policy matters on that, to really look at how we can further attract more investments in infrastructure, because a good market with a potential then only the investments would come there. That is one thing. And also see that some of these sectors, we have that enabling policy framework which supports gas consumption there. There are many things that are there which can be used. And we see, I still make a reference to our two neighbors, small economies, but their power production, 70-75% is on gas based. When they can afford, their economies can afford pass through kind of this thing. I see why can't slowly the Indian industry can also transition to that. The pressures of energy transition, pressure of pricing reforms, I would say, because we see not just the gas, but other substitute fuels also need to be looked at that as to how we can make gas more competitive in that. So I'll limit right now for the initially on this remark. Maybe we can discuss later on this.
Thank you so much for that. Carol, I'll come to you next. What's your view on the Indian market? Being someone who has been analyzing different markets, what's your first reaction, first view on Indian markets, gas markets?
Thank you, Nikhil, and thank you to the IAEE for inviting me for this important and timely debate. It's my pleasure to join the discussion today. I'm speaking from my international perspective, and following India's energy sector over the years has been remarkable. The scale and speed of change in the country has a real global significance. I would like to refer to the India gas market report with an outlook until 2030 that the IEA released this February at the Indian Energy Week in Delhi. I'm proud to have been one of the main authors. So the report reflects on discussions with Indian stakeholders, including government, regulators, and industry. And it provides a clear assessment of challenges and opportunities in India's gas sectors. So India's energy transition is happening under unique conditions, and energy demand is growing faster than in any other major economy. Yet a lot of that energy is imported and thus exposed to global price volatility. And still, India has shown it can hit ambitious goals. The first climate commitments under the Paris Agreement were reached ahead of time. And today, more than half of India's installed power capacity is already from non-fossil fuels. But the central challenge remains how to power rapid economic growth while keeping energy affordable, secure, and sustainable. And over the coming decade, India is set to undertake one of the largest infrastructure build-outs anywhere in the world. So supporting population growth, industrial expansion, and rising digital and urban needs will require massive investment in power grids, in renewable energy integration, nuclear capacity, data centers, and potential hydrogen networks. So these are the pillars of India's development, and investors will naturally prioritize where capital goes first. So making sure that every rupee spent delivers the maximum possible value economically, environmentally, and in terms of system performance. So in this context, natural gas is part of the solution. It can help decarbonize the energy system, it can help reduce local air pollution, and it can provide the flexible power needed to support India's growing share of solar and wind. Our analysis suggests that gas demand could rise by around 60% by 2030, with LNG imports potentially doubling. So I also want to recognize the strong progress already made by the government of India, the rapid expansion of the natural gas grids, the impressive rollout of CGD networks, LNG import diversification to raise the share of gas in the energy mix. And from an international viewpoint, these are very meaningful achievements. But ambition needs an enabling environment, and more is still required, especially as the global market is about to change profoundly with a major wave of new LNG supply capacity coming online by the end of the decade. India has a unique window of opportunity to access more affordable gas. Building up strategic river reserves will also help India to deal with price volatility, which is something that we are all seeing increasingly as energy and geopolitics become more closely linked. So India is well positioned, and timely reforms in policy and market design will determine how fully the country can benefit from this new global landscape.
Sure. Thank you, Carol. And you made a very valid point that the investors will look at every value that is generated of the rupee spent, whether it is towards the clean and green angle, or whether it is to do with the transition, energy transition, and that's where natural gas is one of the candidate of it's fit for looking at energy transition. And with that, I'll move on to Mr. Subhash Kumar and his views on and his favorite topic in terms of how he sees this entire energy transition spanning out. And Mr. Kumar, over to you for your opening remarks. If you could just unmute yourself, please.
Thanks, Nikhil, for having me here, and my regards to fellow panelists and especially my seniors, Mr. Saraf and Dr. Balyan. I think, this is what I have learned my ropes from them. So, but having said that, actually, see, energy is foundational to the achievement of growth aspirations of any nation. India is currently around 4 trillion economy, aspires to grow to 25, and assuming by 2047, assuming that half of this growth comes from energy efficiency, then still you require 3 times higher energy in 2047. If objectives is slightly lower in terms of 25, then also you require significantly larger quantum of energy. So that's one point. No energy source is competing with another. So that's in a way nice problem to have. As far as India is concerned, from overall context, we have a problem, but in a competitive, we are not competing as far as one source versus the other. Second, very important thing, which I thought is relevant, what people consume is energy. They have no preference for oil, gas, or coal. at the end of the day, you have to make safe, secure, sustained energy available. So you have to look at the parameter where, natural gas scores on these parameters, and all of these be import. Unfortunately, other than the renewables, whose potential is increasing at by 2047, we have a substantial capacity, but with growth, we will still continue to require all this. Third point I wanted to make was again a small thing, even if it is a playing with words. Gas is being talked as a transition fuel. In fact, it is causing a lot of harm to the cause of gas. Gas is a fuel for transition. Unfortunately, the whole, the relevance of gas as a key element to the futuristic fuel chain, fuel system, which we intend to have in 2070 also, that's getting distorted. I believe that even if India gets net zero in 2070, gas will still need to be relevant and would be a key constituent. And the last point in opening, this thing I want to make, one of the things was that volatile prices of gas, of course, unfortunately, post 22 or so, last couple of years have been extremely volatile as far as gas is concerned. Of course, that's the case with all energy supply sources. But if you really look at, this country has handled, oil going to $147 per barrel in August 2008. We have handled oil going up to 103 in not so distant past, this very year, earlier during the year, or maybe 12 months earlier. So we have a mechanism, and I think we need to recalibrate what we have done successfully as a country to address those difficult situations and come out with the situation that we can. Last point I want to make, if a worthwhile and serious discussion on gas has to happen, it will actually aid the cause of new fuel choices which country wants to make. 15% should stay as a serious North Star target for the country. The moment you lower the target, you have given a signal, you are almost giving a signal of giving it up, which is not right. You are importing coal, you are importing oil, you are importing gas also. Today, gas is far more, gas supply chains are equally secure as far as the other, energy vectors are concerned. So I stop here in the opening introduction, and maybe, we'll have some points to make later.
Thank you for your opening remarks. Two prominent points, and I would separately talk to you on copyright for that. One is 15% is the North Star, and we should not reduce it, which is a very valid point that you made. And second is the narrative that gas is a transitional fuel is not the narrative. It is a fuel for transition. So after this conference, I'm going to call you. With that, let me move to Saraf Saab. Saraf Saab, you have been involved on a very robust report that was prepared with a lot of stalwarts being part of that. And this report talks about a lot of reforms, structural reforms that needs to be carried out. So if I may, come to you, and I know that has got a laundry list of reforms. If I may, request you to talk about the top 3 reforms that you see would actually make a lot of difference. If we were to look at the 80-20 principle, what do you see those top 3 or 5? You can take the liberty of identifying those which can actually, move the needle pretty fast and help us move faster. So over to you, Saraf.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhil, for that. And I would say that the report has more than 100 recommendations. And choosing top 3 or top 5 of them is a challenge. May not be that big a challenge, one can do that. But when we were discussing the report, the most surprising thing which we discovered was that have we said anything which was not known earlier? Everything was known earlier. And for everything, there are write-ups, there are further reports, and still another report. That's why in the preface, I chose to write that this is a time for introspection, this is a time for action, and let this report not be there just as a report and lying somewhere. So now there is a time for action, and which requires the administrative challenge and administrative courage to implement, I mean, these recommendations. So some of the recommendations which I have picked up for speaking in this particular session is it starts with because it's a series and it's a sequence. So it's not that, I mean, the first is most important and the last is what I'm talking is least important. It's almost a sequence. First is a real-time online bulletin board. Everyone knows about it. There is nothing new. And an online real-time bulletin board is a digital platform which provides continuous real-time updates on critical market infrastructure data. And in the context of natural gas sector, it serves as a transparent, centralized information hub where all the stakeholders, including LNG terminals, the pipeline entities, consumers such as the CGD companies, the third-party shippers, etc., everybody can access this information and the updates and make their own policies. They make their own decisions on gas versus other fuels on a real-time basis, and then take certain actions based on that. When I say that the infrastructure, it includes, because there were two separate sections in the report. In one section, we talked about this real-time bulletin board should be there for natural gas. In another section in the report, we said also that similar structure should be there for LNG terminals also. Because like we say that there needs to be open access for pipelines, there needs to be open access for the LNG terminals as well. Otherwise, this infrastructure is grossly utilized other than the Dahej terminal, which accounts for maybe about 70%, 80% of the total Indian import. And we say that we have about 10 terminals already working. So, and the objective is to enhance the market transparency and operations efficiency by providing up-to-date information to all the participants on a real-time and equal basis without any discrimination. It would also facilitate optimal utilization of the pipeline capacity as well as the LNG terminals for that matter. And it would enable secondary trading in the natural gas in the as well as the infrastructure capacity also. And coupled with that, as I said, that it's all sequential. So once we have the online bulletin board, we should have a centralized 24/7 online common operating system which has for capacity booking platform. So that means the people would get information from the bulletin board, and then there would be another terminal or side by side. The same terminal can be utilized for that for booking of the pipeline capacity, booking of the LNG terminal capacity. It would be, and people would know that in which particular pipeline capacity is there, and people can plan their purchase of pipeline. People can plan their own factories and industrial units that we require so much of gas. This particular route will be available. This particular LNG terminal is vacant, which would connect to my works. Because the pipeline capacity is also available. So, this particular and what it would mean effectively is that the pipeline capacity as well as the LNG capacity would be available to everybody on a non-discriminatory basis at the equal price on first come first served basis. And what we also said that there are certain long-term contracts. we are not saying that these long-term contracts should be not honored. So all these long-term contracts on capacity, these long-term contracts on LNG terminal capacity also, they should be honored. And whatever is the leftover capacity, that should be available on the on this platform for being booked. Third thing which I would like to highlight today, we know that when the LNG buyers in the country, they sell LNG as natural gas, they put certain restrictions. They say that the gas you are buying from me cannot be resold to another consumer. So that means, and also all these contracts, they have take or pay clause, which effectively means that the buyer has to pay for the gas, whether he is able to take it or not. And in case he is not able to consume it in its own factory or its industrial unit, because there is a shutdown or some different reason, and he cannot even sell it. So it's a double new party for the gas buyer. Because when you talk to some of the industries on one-on-one basis, then they say that this is a major deterrent for them to gasify their own industries. So this restriction has to go because it's not fair, it's not competitive. And we said that PNGRB has got powers, and under the PNGRB Act, under Section 11(1), PNGRB can issue that such provision on resale should go away. That is one. And we also said that PNGRB should collaborate with the Competition Commission of India to impose, wherever Competition Commission is feeling that some restrictive trade practices are being followed, then even Competition Commission can also take action, but PNGRB needs to collaborate with them. That's also we said in the report. We also said that MOPNG should advise the public sector companies, and PNGRB should issue advisories to remove these restrictions.
Yeah.
Next one I would like to say is entry-exit system on pipeline tariff. So this is, I would not elaborate it in great detail, but this is something which is there in globally in most of the developed pipeline regimes. And in India also, we should have this entry-exit system, whereby along with the unified tariff which the country already has. The last one, which is most important, is an independent ISO. Independent ISO should be there in the country. In all the mature markets, the ISO, which is an independent entity and responsible for overseeing, operating, maintaining the pipeline system, transmission system, it is there. So in India, Indian consumers also deserves to have an independent ISO. And we also said in the report that it should be an independent company. It should work under the control of PNGRB. It should not be a gas transporting or gas marketing company, because a lot of suggestions were coming that an existing gas company can become an ISO. So which we said that it should not be, it should be, and it would be a Section 8 company, not for profit company, because ultimately the ISO is a pass-through entity. It does not require much of initial capital, as well as not much of operating expenditure. And whatever is the OPEX, CAPEX, PNGRB can make, regulations and devise some mechanism to fund that. Mr. Narasimhan is there. I mean, who has been doing this job for many years. In fact, the committee consulted him also that what's to be done. And let me also say that whatever I said just now, on all these recommendations, there has been great opposition as well. And the opposition is well understood. The people who are representing different organizations, they have they are duty bound to protect their own organization's interest. So, but somebody in the country, maybe the regulator or the government itself, has to see that how to develop this industry, which is more important than the commercial interest of a particular entity. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Saraf Sahab. I think you made 5 valid points in terms of what is it that needs to be done, and these 5 points are linked to gas markets. And I'll actually move to Mr. Mehndi Ratta to maybe talk about how important are these for development of gas markets and deepening of gas markets, because everything is linked in that sense, from a transparency point of view, from a efficiency point of view. So, Mr. Mehndi Ratta, I'll come to you, and if you could just talk about it, how important it is to have these kind of solutions or interventions deployed to have a good gas market in the country.
Yeah, Nikhil, see, sir has rightly brought out, rightly means whatever he said, definitely we also fully agree with that. And the reason why we agree more on all of these points is because, see, when we have experience of 5 years of operating the markets, now when we have today, the transmission tariff is linked to your contractual path and distance-based tariff. This is because of this only we had to create a model where we have 22 delivery points at different parts of the country. Now, when we have 22 delivery points, then actually we are having 22 order books. It means that buyers and sellers have to choose the delivery points and place their orders at those locations. And then you discover prices at 22 delivery points. So now our overall market liquidity is getting fragmented across these points. So how we can create a system by which we bring liquidity at one location? This can be done only when we have a kind of virtual hub model. One virtual hub in the country where one order book and all the buyers sellers are coming to that platform, and then we discover a price. That price will definitely be much more robust. And with the more efficiency, you will be able to do the trade. Now, for doing that, you need to have entry-exit system or unified. Unified means one postage stamp. But as we understand, postage stamp for a country like India, large country like India, where somebody sitting close to source also pays the same thing, and somebody sitting 3,000 kilometers away, they also pay the same tariff. It doesn't make sense. But entry-exit takes into account all of this. It takes into account distance. It takes into account the directional flows and where you are located, where are you away from source or away near the source. So all of that gets captured in the entry-exit tariff. So entry-exit is definitely required for that kind of creating a virtual hub model. Second part is the GST also is one important area which I would have liked to add. That because there are multiple taxation in different states, then this is creating, actually that requires again creating different delivery points in different states, because people would like to use the arbitrage across the states in terms of taxes. So that should not be there. People should only see the merit on basis of price of commodity, not the taxation and other issues. So these two will take care of your creating virtual hub. And third one is a system operator is anyway required, because when you are dealing with, now there are 3 major pipeline operators. You have to deal separately with all of these 3 when you want to book a capacity, when you want to do scheduling, nomination, and then you have to choose the path, and then you actually do everything across the path, across all these pipeline operators. So there should be centralized system whereby you should be just coming in single window where you come and then place your order, then everything on the back of it can be somebody has to get in touch with this pipeline operator, see the pipeline operate with security, and they remain in good utilization. So with that can be done with the ISO, system operator, common system operator. So common platform for booking capacity, and transparency in terms like there should be all the information in the system should flow symmetrically to all the market participants. That also is required, because then only you can take a right call on price and price of the gas. So with that, I think what Sir said, we fully agree. And the reason I said, because markets need that kind of those things, because otherwise markets will remain fragmented and you will not see the liquidity. When you don't get liquidity, your benchmark will not be regarded given that kind of credibility. And once you have benchmark, then definitely people can do the hedging using that benchmark, and that can give you a lot of benefit in terms of markets.
Yeah.
I'll stop here.
Yeah, and one of the important point that you made, Mr. Medela, is the last point that, if you have to have a single benchmark for the country as a whole, you have to have all these things in place so that, there is a single benchmark that can be talked about, right? And when we go in global markets, right, if we want to say that, this is an Indian benchmark, it has to be a single benchmark. It can't be a multiple benchmark. And with that, I'll turn on to Mr. Balian in terms of the LNG terminals. When we are talking of so many LNG terminals in the country, and the integration of these LNG terminals with the core system. So we have been talking about one nation, one grid. So can we also envisage to have one nation, one grid, and multiple terminals, all the capacities put together to one capacity of LNG terminals? So that is something that, what's your view on that? If you could just unmute yourself, Mr. Balian.
Nikhil, if we just see how we have developed so far from the, as I said, first cargo in 2004, we were actually ahead of China that time. China had not really even started the LNG business, that time, and we had the Dahej operating that time. But over a period of time, we see several new terminals have come. Of course, I see that this site location is slightly lopsided, as we have more concentration on the west coast here. I would have preferred to have other areas also, identified areas to also develop into industrial hubs, and these terminals should have come close to that vicinity. And but nevertheless, we have about 7 operating terminals there. 2 on the east coast. I will take Ennore as the southernmost kind of thing, but majority of them on the east coast, on the west coast here. A total capacity of about 50 to 53 million ton. Terminals can actually go beyond their rated capacity also. But one thing which we see is that the contracted value of LNG is just about 30 to 33 million ton. So we have lot capacity that we need to contract more LNG. That's one thing. And if you see how it is developing, we expect that by 2030, 2040, the ratio of domestic gas LNG would be perhaps of the order that LNG would be around 65% or so. So more LNG would be coming. So we would need definitely more terminals, but their location site should be little more due diligence should be given in terms of those emerging industrial sectors, demand centers there, and should be there, because we need to also look at how do you minimize the transportation cost on that. Also, we have to see that there were 3-4 more proposals for terminals. but we haven't really got the floating systems. I do not know why the two major projects which were almost on the verge of commissioning actually could not be commissioned. So, but FSRUs, floating systems, do offer advantages in terms of early mobilization, low cost, and many things like that. But then I think what is required is the connectivity of these terminals to the network, the national grid that we call, or we have the desire to have that national grid. That has been so far a problem area. Barring Dahej, where the pipelines were more or less at the same time synchronized with that, all other terminals have had problems, pipeline connectivity. So the evacuation of gas into the grid was always impacted there, and that's a problem. So I think one thing would be needed is to really see that these LNG gas sources are synchronized with pipeline network and are connected to the grid. The availability should be there. The second point is in the pipeline, this thing is the last mile connectivity is still a problem. So that should need to be there. I mean, a customer may be willing to take gas, but then if the pipeline is 100 kilometers away, he would run into difficulty how to get that gas. You know that. So that's the problem. There comes, of course, the another way of providing gas in the form of LNG through the trucks there. But that proposal also has policy framework problems that, operators have run into difficulty. How do you sell in a GA awarded to somebody else, LNG terminal supplier somebody else? How do you do that transaction? So these policy issues, although these have been very well drafted and recommended in the report, but I think these are, to my mind, are problem areas for increasing the gas consumption by willing customers. Apart from that, I see that even if you have connected that, democratization of the usable infrastructure. I mean, that's the point I would like to broadly. All policies are directed to how do you democratize the infrastructure for at equal rights to a small consumer as also a big consumer. They have the same all rights on that. So I think that's the policy framework behind thought, and this is what we need to be implemented there, which would definitely help small consumers in a big way, and then go for that. But two other major issues are there. One is the rationalization of taxation. It's a complex. It's actually is in a mess, if I can use that word. And I don't know from where they get an idea. States come up with their own new ideas and some other tax and some names. So this needs to be quickly addressed. And I think a solution, we know all that what solution should be there, but I think getting that solution implemented is a challenge. And that's the kind of thing which, where the prices vary too much. I mean, it becomes difficult for that. And Mr. Saraf explained that, even Mr. Mendiratha, that's a problem here. And you should have, and we all should aspire to have a market which is driven by transparency, which is non-discriminatory. We have all kinds of third-party access rights to that, certain best practices to be adopted on that, where, once the gas is sold to somebody and if you're not able to use, should be permitted to resale. So all those things would help in increasing the quantity and availability of the gas to a customer which is far away from the terminals. So I think these are the main things that we see. Also, we see that LNG could be used for strategic storage also, where, we run of shortage of gas, why can't we really use, there are some thoughts on that, but we certainly recommend that using LNG as a strategic storage for gas for the country and making appropriate policies to use this boil off and how do you commercially get it done. I think is not a very complicated thing, can be done on that. The other thing is that we have not tapped the coastal opportunities of trade. This again is there, although we need some small ships, barges and all, that sector is still lacking in the country. And we have a large coastline. We have several customers on the coast there. I think this is what I think we should do, that instead of pipeline, it's a virtual pipeline taking gas as LNG to the customer at the coastal thing. So there are many things that we feel that the can be done. But as of now, as we see, LNG infrastructure is growing. We see that it will grow. And one of the primary reasons for this attractive investments coming in is that there are hardly any regulation restrictions on that. So an open market, I think, facilitates more investments and growth. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'll stop here.
Thank you so much. And the point that you made, open market will actually help things evolve. And these are the aspects with respect to the connectivities of various LNG terminals. It will definitely boost up or add up to deepening of these markets, right? I'll move next to Carol. You in terms of your experience in the global gas markets, what do you think? What is it that India needs at this moment? And again, there are a lot of stuff that needs to be done, but what are your top 3-4 pointers that we can look at, which will actually help deepen the gas markets, develop the liquidity within the market space? So over to you.
Thank you. Maybe first I would like to step back and have a look on the evolution of the gas consumption in recent years in India. So between 2019 and 2024, gas demand rebounded after years of stagnation. And we've witnessed growth above 10% year on year in both 2023 and 2024. But this year in 2025, what we are observing so far is that overall consumption fell by about 5% year on year compared to 2024. So of course, 2024 was a special year because of high consumption in the power sector due to the heat wave. And because in 2025, we also saw refining, fertilizer shifted to cheaper alternative fuels like LPG, naphtha, and even biomass. So what we see also in contrast is that city gas distribution is growing strongly, around 9% year on year. And this is thanks to the expansion of the CNG for transport and the CDG connection. So what we see that this current slowdown should be temporary, and demand should start recovering as of next year and grow until 2030. This is exactly why improving access across different sectors matters. So once again, policy reforms are essential to unlock these benefits. You ask for main priority areas. So it includes liberalizing third-party access to infrastructure, to align taxes and subsidies across the different fuels, and maybe implementing a revenue-neutral carbon pricing to make gas coming back in the merit order for power production, and expanding strategic reserves to manage supply shocks. So in short, attracting gas in different sectors is important, and realizing this potential really depends on timely and coordinated policy actions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Carol. And quite important points you made specifically around revenue neutral carbon pricing. This is something that we are still a little far off. So maybe that can be picked up to ensure that one of the biggest historical biggest consumption sector, which is power, we can look at revamping those areas. I'll just come to Subhaji. Subhaji, in terms of CGD, Carol talked about several other sectors. What's your key takeaway when it comes to CGD? How do you see the deepening the gas markets? You're on mute. If you could just unmute, sir, please.
I hope it is. Now, actually, I'll make certain points in terms of one-liners instead of very detailed, because those are well understood. So one of them is, let's say, GST. It has been talked of. I think it is at the very root of the problems that gas industry faces. This needs to be addressed on an immediate basis. Then second issue is, which is peculiar to CGD entity and especially PNG. The competing modern low carbon fuel is LPG, which is fairly heavily subsidized. Now, at the end of the day, see, I again come back to the consumer does not love one or the other source of energy. What is very critical for consumer is the economics. So if the gas, which is a much cleaner and even good source of energy for even these set of consumers, actually that there needs to be a parity. If there has been Ujjwala scheme, world's best scheme, which has taken it to scale, there has to be, time is now for Prajwala scheme, which takes actually CGD to scale. I'll miss quite a few other points. LMC, last mile connectivity, is extremely important. National gas grid is a priority, and it is really, a pity that it actually tells you how a small missing link can create outsized impact on the functioning or failure of a system. What the whole system was required to deliver, actually you could be just realizing 30% of potential of it only because 15 kilometers or 130 kilometers is missing. So I think high time that this is got done on priority. Then there is a national gas grid policy is required. There has to be clear affirmation to 15% and a grid. LNG terminals have been talked of. Volumes are significantly different from what they were in the formative years of 2004 and all. And today it is very different. So, terminals need to step in and be part of the solution and cannot continue with the kind of rates which have existed for ages. It is simply not allowed. All infrastructures should actually charge the service which the system can bear and gives the reasonable profit. There is actually there is issue on implementation front, which is there is a requirement for a model state policy. Every state has its own CGD policy. Even if it is a state subject, there is need for the central government or some central agency to come up with model CGD policy, and probably that should be used as a criteria for ranking the states as far as ease of doing business ranking is concerned. It is critical because quite a few states may not be even aware because this is not high priority. There has to be land related issues. The approvals have to come, and probably I think that two other things small I'll make in this round and possibly hold something for the last. Single window clearance is a must, and everything going digital. The CGD should be actually bothered about implementation side instead of seeking approvals. Approvals should be the work of the relevant, let's say, government officials or ministries or the regulators to create a framework where approvals come. And, the CGD entity should be tasked with the responsibility of achieving the targets, enormous ones. Go digital, go digital. That's the message. If you continue people to keep on filing documents and applying and waiting for approval, that's not going to work. And probably, the approvals and the inspections could be post the event also. There could be possibility for people to seek third-party inspections and the systems can go ahead. So I think I had a long list. I'm cutting, to help you. But I think these are few of the critical ones. We can separately, since you propose separate discussion, I'll be very happy to discuss another 30 of them.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And I'm sure that, with all the stalwarts sitting here, we would have, like Saraf Sahab said, I had 200 pointers to, discuss about. But, there are few things, and I always, as consultancy, we have the habit of structuring things and, making framework so that we get to those specific pointers, right? And with that, what I would want to do now is, because I'm just getting messages that we also have we should have time for, people to ask questions, but I'll come back to each one of you for one round, and I would request if you could talk about, specific elements of the gas market development with a focus on gas market, right? If you have to develop gas market and deepen gas market, hand on heart, one element that will make or break it. So Saraf Sahab, I know you said that I have a long list, but still I would, suggest, request you to talk about that one point which is a make or break element of it. And there could be few others also. So you can take two also, but at least one or two make or break elements. Saraf Sahab.
Yeah, I talked about certain points in the earlier round. Now I would like to say one point which is quite important. And we talked about the pricing of natural gas. Pricing of natural gas is not a function of the government. It's not a function of the regulator. It's a function of the market. And market needs to decide about the gas price. And the gas price which is decided by the market has to be transparent. It has to be based on the demand and supply considerations. So for that, we need to have an exchange, which we already have. Excuse me, which we already have. But the exchange needs to be empowered. The exchange needs to be empowered with more volume. The volumes are not coming, though the exchange has been there for last 5 years. So if we want the gas price to be transparent, which is very important for development of gas market, we need to enhance the liquidity at the exchange from sell side. The companies, the producing companies, the LNG operators need to go to the exchange to sell their gas to the consumers. We have put artificial conditions. For example, the conditions say that some X%, maybe some 10% of HPHT gas can be sold at the exchange and not anymore. I don't see any justification. The only justification could be that the exchange does not have liquidity. So whether exchange would be able to sell this gas or not. But unless you empower the exchange, how it will be able to sell? So similarly, from buyers' side, the fertilizer companies, the refineries, the CGD companies, they need to go to the exchange and buy more and more gas so that price discovery can be more efficient. So this needs to be there, and this could be regulated in the sense that which other countries have also done. That they can specify that so much of gas has to be purchased from the through the exchange, so that it's to begin with. So and such regulation should go away in course of maybe after 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, etc. The exchange has got already developed. So transparent pricing is something which we require, which can be done by empowering the exchange by giving it more and more volumes. Thank you.
So increasing liquidity is the mother statement, and everything that you talked about in the first thing is an enabler to do that, right? So very well put, Saraf sir. I'll come to Mr. Mediratta. One or two elements that would make or break it. Sir, you are on mute.
No, I will take again the same thing with what Mr. Saraf said forward. Like I'll give you numbers, like how much on the sell side we are missing and how much on the buy side we are missing. If you see our domestic gas, 70% is APM, 30% is SPHT, and out of SPHT only 10% is allowed to come on the exchange. So basically, out of all domestic gas we have, almost 97% is not allowed to be traded on the exchange. Second, if you say demand side, your fertilizer, which is 25% of the total market, that also is not allowed to come on the exchange. So when they have been artificially been barred to come and use the exchange, and that volume doesn't add to the liquidity, so this becomes one of the major issue And thank you, sir, for highlighting this. And I don't have any other point to say because earlier what we said is still valid. But if you see top one, I think this one is very important.
Okay. No, thank you so much. I'll come to Ms. Palyan, your top two takeaways or top two elements.
Nikhil, just to create that, what you call that ecosystem, which is enabling ecosystem, I think there are 3-4 things that to my mind. Number one, we should have a market or work for a market which has no structural bottlenecks. Number two, commercial autonomy. Purely market-driven forces, should be there with the pricing, demand, supply on that. Number three, no regulatory micro management, regulator is to give a broad guidelines and sort of recommends best practices for the market to be followed, but not micromanagement. That would slowly, if you do a micromanagement, then it becomes restrictive. We have seen that. Number four, adoption some of the best practices of terminal operations or pipeline operations or whatever it is. This thing we need not rediscover the wheel. There are many best practices and we can really adopt them. A working system for a third-party access, particularly as Subhash said, a digital system open to all, which everybody can have an access on that, and which provides that equal level operating opportunities to a bigger operator, bigger seller or a buyer as a smaller one. I think if you follow this, I think the market would grow on their own actually.
Okay, thank you so much, Carol. From an external perspective, what do you think? What is it that India needs to do, and which is a kind of a deal breaker? If that doesn't happen, things would again get delayed.
Yeah, I think that we are entering a new phase with this new LNG supply wave, and we expect easing condition on the prices. So I think this will be something that could help. But even if international LNG prices fall, delivered cost in India can still remain high. So domestic reforms can make a big difference here. And transparent third-party access is important, and bundling as well, and rationalized tariffs and better utilization of existing assets could make the difference. So supporting competition and market access can ensure those efficiency gain actually reach end users, the industry, power plants, and household. But maybe the success of this vision will depend on reforms. And maybe a final reminder, coming from the European experience, it shows that opening gas markets took more than 20 years. So India's reform will similarly require patience, long-term planning, and consistent implementation.
So transparency is the key, right, for developing any gas markets, and you said that that's very, very critical.
Okay, there is a need for transparency internationally also. I mean, for LNG, maybe Carol can say, why do they charge Asian premium?
So I think
goes to this way or that way. I mean, I see no logic at all.
Yeah. No, we can definitely have a discussion around that. Maybe I'll just, conscious of time, coming to Subhash Kumarji on your top two elements.
Okay, so I must say all enablers exist, and Government of India, especially Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, has been very supportive. PNGRB is going beyond normally what is the reference of a PNG a regulator, and they are becoming truly enablers. And the kind of study which has been commissioned, I'm pretty sure this can end up being a key element from here onwards. I only want to say that there has to be a clear reaffirmation of the targets, and in which I don't think scaling down from 15% will help. There has to be a national CGD policy, and of course, something which Dr. Balyan also said, we have to use tech pre-approvals, and actually, Bishwas has to be the basis of everything going ahead. And I'll take a minute more than what is given. See, I believe, is it a difficult challenge? Yes, there are challenges. The most difficult task I have found in my life is clearing the mess on the table in my home, right? And what happens is that there is a clear nudge, there is a suggestion, there is a direction, but you don't act. Come a festival like Diwali, there is an order, and the table gets cleared in just 45 minutes. So something which you did not do for, let's say, 3 months, you actually end up doing it in 15 minutes. So I think time is now
kind of commitment,
that we get into execution.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very valid point. Thank you so much, all of you, for this insightful sessions. I do see some questions in my box, and I'll just read out to these questions, and maybe one of you can answer these. So the first question is from Mr. KBV Ramkumar. His question is that what is more economical, whether it is more economical to transport gas and then generate power, or you generate or you transport electricity. So essentially, where should the location should be, and so on and so forth. So I don't know, Madhurita Saab, you would want to go. You have seen both the worlds, and I think you are the best place to answer this question.
Yeah, Nikhil, this was a difficult question. I have not really done the calculation, but largely today the both transport cost for electricity and gas is not too high. Only problem is the price of gas itself. So had the price of gas been reasonable, probably we would have been using it. Only thing is today it's so high that it doesn't make sense. So we should not be too worried about transport costs for either electricity or LNG, because both are similarly similar in nature. Similar cost is there. Maybe actual calculation can be done. But there are many other factors which you need to take care when you put up a power plant, because you cannot put it in the city, or maybe so all of those factors are more important than having this distance part.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Siddharth Rao. The question is, with gas coming in, or with the green hydrogen coming in, how do you see the demand being, increased? Because one of the most important consumer that consumes gas is fertilizer sector. So with green hydrogen coming in, does it impact? How does it impact? What will happen to the our view of increasing gas market share? So if anybody would want to go, maybe Mr. Balian.
As per the latest development and detail that we know about hydrogen, the cost of production of hydrogen, particularly green hydrogen, is very high. And it is likely to take at least a decade to really see when the technology matures that the prices would be known. But it is going to be definitely higher than the natural gas. So for that foreseeable future, I think it makes sense for natural gas to go. Just one point on the power point. We had suggested that the power plant may be better placed along with the LNG terminal, that you can use the cold energy there, and you can get about 9 to 10% higher efficiency there.
Yeah. No, valid point. And one more point for you, Mr. Balian. This is on strategic equity in LNG terminals, LNG project in countries abroad. Should we do that?
No, I think this has been pursued. We have had, foreign equity gas as well. We have companies like GAIL who had gone contracted there. They have equity in the liquefaction terminals. The much awaited delayed project in Mozambique, India companies have together 30% equity there. So this is being pursued wherever I think opportunity. I know we also had pursued earlier some similar opportunities. It's a matter of the expenditure, cost, pricing, all those things are there. But I think as a strategy, this is being pursued by the Indian companies.
Yeah. There's another question on shipping. What about shipping industry of India? So should we get into shipbuilding big time? I'm privy of some of the discussions in the government where this is coming up very heavily now. So
Well,
at least,
I'm Nikhil little critical of this aspect because I think India has missed the bus now. There was an effort by the Ministry of Petroleum and Shipping together to develop some of the ports for manufacturing, developing, constructing LNG ships there. Let me say it's not a rocket science, but then the economics somehow did not work out. Although some of the leading ship makers were keen to collaborate with India. But I strongly feel that we should pursue this thing. And as I said, the coastal trading opportunity is one which is low-hanging fruit for me. India can easily, the shipping company in India can venture into barges, which is a much smaller target there, and slowly get into actually ship making. So India with kind of projections that we have, maybe third largest LNG importer in next 10 years time, it is worthwhile to really examine opportunities for having our own shipping, LNG shipping.
Okay, thank you for that. There's one more question from Mr. GPS Singh. This is on the charges being levied at IGX. So the question says upstream producers use services of IGX but do not pay transaction charge, constraining IGX to charge the buyers. So what should be done to correct this one? So maybe Saraf Saab or Medhirata Saab. Medhirata Saab, you are a conflicted party, so maybe I'll go to Saraf Saab. Saraf Saab, what is your view on that?
Yeah, my view would be that anybody utilizing any service should pay for it. I do not know the background and details of the question or the problem, but in all fairness, if you are taking a service, you pay for it. I think what would be happening is that because the upstream company is not paying, then IGX would be levying both the buyer's commission, buyer's charges as well as the seller's charges on the buyer. So which is not fair. I do not know why the upstream companies are not paying, whether there is a issue in their own internal process or something else. But
maybe that is something that
Nikhil, I'd also like to add. Actually, see, at the end of the day, efforts of everybody, all participants, should be on increasing the size of pie. Let's say 5% of 100 is better than 100% of 5. So, because at the end of the day, that business does not survive. And I'm pretty sure that as far as IGX is also concerned, as the business picks up, they will also, automatically reduce, because at the end of the day, there are certain fixed costs. But these kind of discussions are transactional, ongoing. There is merit a bit or otherwise, that's something to be discussed. But obviously, for IGX to grow, the charges have to be reasonable, because again, it is an infrastructure. Its utilization will improve if charges are reasonable.
Yeah.
So I just add one clarification. Our total transaction fee, which is required to be paid by buyer, because whatever seller charges, actually it comes on the buyer itself. That has remained same for all the transaction. So I will stop here, because this is not the discussion debate meant for having this. But let's
obviously.
Yeah. Okay. One more question.
But let me also add one more thing. That the transaction charge in the whole game is such a small number that it should not incentivize or disincentivize the buyer or seller in trading on the exchange. So they should see the bigger game and do the transaction because they are making so much of value addition by trading in the exchange otherwise. Anyway, I stop here.
I think we are up time. There's one more question and last question I would take. This is on future prices for LNG. So the question is that by 27-28, when LNG glut hits Indian market, what may be the landed cost of gas at that point of time, and what will be the will it be affordable for power sector? I see Saraf Saab nodding in not in affirmation, but
Nikhil,
he
if somebody would know it,
that,
he won't be on this, he would be rushing to the bank.
Yeah.
He will buy
but Nikhil, the kind of investment that are committed on the capex, if you see, I have some details on that. The maximum is in this year about going over more than $300 billion.
Correct.
And the kind of projections that are there, which are approved, which are being proposed, which are being examined, I mean, huge amount of investment is coming. So I think it is very much likely that we'll have an overproduction scenario in the next 2 to 3 years time on that. And this scenario would certainly impact the pricing. And we only hope that it comes to that level which India can afford. So maybe around $8-9 or something.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing.
So thank you so much. And Amrita, there are 2 more questions. Maybe you can note down the names and the questions and connect with the esteemed panelists, and you can reach out to the people who are asking these questions. So thank you all for being such a wonderful panelist, and it was always a pleasure to interact with all of you. With this, let's come to a close, and I'll hand it over back to Mr. Narasimhan.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks to all the panelists, for a wonderful session, a lot of learnings, and definitely there's still many unanswered questions, which I'm sure we would be taking up in the next set of webinars on this subject. And so with that, I would like to hand over, and thanks to all the participants, for staying connected till the end of the debate. With this, I hand over to Amrita for the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. So I would formally thank all the panelists, the moderator, and the organizing team for this debate, and a special thanks to all the participants for staying with us up till the entire session. We look forward to interacting with you all again in the next webinar debate session by Indian Association of Energy Economics. We organize it every month on different topics and publicize it in our social media and different WhatsApp groups. So keep an eye out on our social media handles. The recording of this webinar will also be available on our YouTube channel, and reshared the link on social media platforms as well. So thank you once again, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Happy weekend.
Thank you, Narasimhan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Saraf Saab. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Saraf sir. Thank you.
Great listen to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Narasimhan.